What is something that you think about often but never talk about? I think horses would be mad if they knew we call dogs man's best friend. Horse. Now, that's cool. We carried your fat asses around for literal thousands of years. But they can fetch sticks. That's cool. How much I want to abandon everything I have in life and run away to another country and start a new life with a fake name. I don't know why I want to do this so bad, but it's always in the back of my mind. These intrusive thoughts that everyone has. At least I hope I'm not the only one, lol. For example, I could just drive against a tree right now, or that would really hurt if I stab this knife in my eye, but I could do that easily. That doesn't mean I really want to do any of that. But sometimes your mind goes a little off topic, you know, but you just don't tell anyone in real life, because that would be really weird. How everyone is the main character in their story. It just feels kinda peaceful knowing everyone is walking around doing their own thing sometimes. Do people think about how much eye contact they should have while they're talking? Do people like me? Why do I have a fetish? Where did other people get their fetishes? I notice attractive people, but never say anything about beauty. Why do some birds jump around and others walk? How much damage I could cause an old frail person if I were to shoulder barge them. Death. Not like killing myself or anything. Just the abstract concept and what lies beyond. As a healthy person living in middle class America, with two amazing parents who were instrumental in making me who I am, how I really won the lottery. Statistically, it already puts me in an amazingly rare segment of humans that is so incredibly lucky in so many ways. Being forever alone. Think about it all the time. Never speak about it, eye roll. World building fantasies. Like thinking up the entire hierarchy and command structure and background for a fleet of space pirates. Or imagining the abilities of the kingdom's most powerful warriors, etc. Quitting smoking before I get cancer. Mine is from when I was a kid. I often thought about what it would be like if God required us to walk over every square inch of the earth to get to heaven. Basically, imagine if you had to walk over every possible square inch of the earth's surface. I still have this thought pop into my head every time I'm somewhere in nature that is vast and expansive. I guess I was a weird kid. I often think about what I would do if I traveled back in time to my own body 20 years ago. How would I be able to make a ton of money with my knowledge from today? How would I stop 9/11 without getting locked up? How would I pass the time knowing every movie and video game spoiler for the next 20 years? Would I be able to have my kid, or would it be like some other kid? Would I be able to prevent Suicide Squad from happening? It's very stressful. Packing up all the essentials and backpacking across the world. I never get to really talk about it, since my life is pretty much set up well, and uprooting it would make a bunch of things fall apart. Whatever flavor of the yam my anxiety chooses. How I feel like I never got the chance to properly grieve my grandmother's death. Had to fly overseas to get to the funeral, wrote the eulogy on the flight, made it just in time for the service, and spent the next 2 days caring for family before flying home again. I didn't cry or anything at the time, but now 4 years later I tear up if I think or talk about her. I've never said anything about it to anyone though. What will 0G and low G sports be like? When I was 13, I was homeless living in a park. I woke up one night and was being strangled. I managed to get my pocket knife out and started stabbing away. I woke up in the hospital that night. The man I stabbed died. For the next year my life was crazy, but no one I know these days even knows about it. I don't even talk about it with my therapist, but I think about it every day. What would happen if cats had the same ability to climb walls and ceilings like geckos? I have no idea why this is a thing I think about. How depressed and exhausted I am. I feel like a complete fraud who's due to be exposed at any moment. I pretend to be a normal functioning human being, but lately have been feeling too tired to even do that well. What will happen when people figure out I've been pulling the wool over their eyes for years? I miss old friends more than I care about new friends. My alcohol problem. My own failures. I recently got disenrolled out of a military boot camp due to physical reasons. The fact that I came in short despite giving my best, still haunts me. I know it is part of growing up, and it is one of the hardest lessons life has to give, that sometimes your best is not good enough. So far, I'm doing okay, a little bit down, but I'm focusing on moving up, going for graduate studies, and working out in the meantime. Still, I still have flashes to the officer panel discussing my disenrollment. They had me stand in front of 4-5 officers and they grilled me on my inadequacies. Why nobody is attracted to me. When I'm having a depersonalization episode, and I really want someone to talk me through it, but even if I start to explain it, people will think I'm a lunatic. How do you even begin to explain to someone? I don't feel like me, I feel like a NPC floating through life. My name doesn't sound like my name. I know we know each other well, but I feel like I don't know you at all. So I have to put on a fake smile and push through, and hope the feeling goes away on its own. Whether or not I want kids. I'm 29. My boyfriend doesn't want them, and I really have no idea, so I dwell on it most of the time. What would happen if I just clamped down on the dentist's finger while it's in my mouth? Could I bite it off? How would he react? I'm an American with a chronic illness, and I feel so incredibly lucky to just have health insurance. My job doesn't offer it, but my spouse's does. I spend a lot of time thinking about Americans who die because they can't, say, afford insulin. I also have seething anger for the whole system, pharmaceutical company greed, and the frick you. I got my mentality of people who are against accessible healthcare. Titties. Where the hell do all the single shoes come from by the side of roads? I'm only at work because I need to pay my bills. Like if I had enough cash to stop working, I wouldn't be here. My boss wants me to go that extra mile and give 10% more. Now don't really care. The company I'm working for is going through this whole new this is a career, not a job hour level bullcrap, and making people sit through these weekly hour-long meetings on how we are responsible for growing the brand. I can only think this is another hour paid, and another hour closer to not having to come back to these meetings. But saying you are only at work because you are paid is bad form. No, it isn't. It's literally the basis of commerce. Providing a service, work, in return for pay. I view this as a job that allows me to exchange my life force for money, not as the sole reason for my living, which is what the company wants. If the company went bankrupt tomorrow, that would suck, because I hate searching for jobs, but that is the only reason it would suck. I literally don't give a single frick about this company outside of helping ensure that my paycheck cashes. If I wrote a computer program to randomly set each pixel in a 640x480 image using a 32,000 color palette, and it never repeated the same sequence twice, eventually it would show every conceivable image of every single thing we could ever imagine ever in the entire universe. For example, if you could take a picture of anything and render it in that box with that palette, that picture is technically one of the random sequences my program would eventually have generated. So, anything that could ever be photographed would eventually be rendered in that image using my random pixel generator. Story ideas, because I don't wanna be that guy who blabbers about this amazing idea they have and then never work on / finish it. Banging coworkers. Fitness and dieting. When I first started, it was a go-to topic for me to bring up. After a while you start realizing that everyone has their 2 cents on how to work out and diet properly, to the point where they almost impose their beliefs. Now I just think about it to myself, but never bring it up unless someone else does. How much of our lives is literally wasted trying to earn, save, and spend paper, or that life is ruled by paper. Money is paper given value, based on some shiny rocks that some guy way back decided would be termed valuable. Need to qualify for more paper, fill out the papers, to get the paper, to get help with food, school, housing, or medical care. We are a species capable of so much, but we are stuck in this cycle. It's depressing. What the frick happens when you die? What if tomorrow is the day that the fricking aliens came and invaded our nation? Like, would we even be able to frick with their crap? Like, do we have the type of weaponry to frick with their ships? Or not at all? Like, would they just walk up in this Motherfriker loin at us and blasting at us and making everybody disintegrate and assimilate without a hint of intimidation? Or could we do some crap to be making their heart race? Like what the frick would it be like? Would they be like Earth Go Hard? Or is it just another conquest? Or would they be like Damn Earth Go Hard? Suicide. I often think about what would happen to the people around me if I died today. Like who would cry for me, or how does it impact their life? The opposite happens too, like what if someone close to me died now? How would I react? How religion has been the cause for violence for centuries. But I don't mention it because it makes me sound like a peen. My novels that I was working on before I started grad school and got a job. Unfortunately, my creative writing juices just kind of dried up with serious real-world responsibilities. If I ever won the lottery, I'd quit and try to write full-time. Killing myself. The game. My everyday suicidal thoughts and how to disappear from everyone I know. My loneliness. I've got a great family and friends, but there's a hole missing somewhere. Also, I'm not very confident as a person, so that doesn't really help. I never talk about this, but it's probably what I think about the most. Leaving behind everything. I often think about just going away with whatever I can fit into a backpack, whatever money I have in my bank, and my car, and then just drive until I run out of funds. Then I'd find some work in that area until I have enough money to do it again. Just living to keep moving with no contact from anybody and no ties to the life I left behind. But when so many people in your life depend on you, it's just an unrealistic dream. Is it a fart or not? Whenever I see couples, I almost always picture them having sex. It's even worse when they announce they're expecting and both parents aren't very attractive. It's like God don't put that image in my head. It feels so invasive and perverted to let those thoughts run rampant. How frick mankind is. We are on a collision course for disaster. Climate change plus limited/diminishing natural resources plus exponential population growth. Not good. I'd really like a Marlboro. I'm only allowed to have the life I have and own the things I own. Because the people who make these things, tech products, clothes, shoes etc., are paid awful slave wages and live terribly impoverished lives relative to my own. If everyone was compensated as fairly for their time as I am, everything I want would be so much more expensive. It's not fair that my life is as luxurious as it is. How many bodies and cars with bodies in them are submerged in the thousands of lakes and canals in my city? I always scan the canals when I walk by just in case there's a car underwater. Maybe it's because drowning in a sunken car is one of my biggest fears. I read an old newspaper article once where a guy searching for a missing man who had driven off the road found his car and his body in a canal, sitting literally right on top of another car containing the body of another man who died the same way. Talk about a crazy coincidence. So many cold cases could be solved if we could magically summon up all the sunken cars in South Florida. My ex. How you can have such strong feelings for someone without them feeling anything for you. It just feels like there is a connection there, that I'm only fully content and at peace when I'm near him, talking to him, and yet he feels nothing. It's hard for me to grasp that such strong feelings exist without them being reciprocated. But I could never talk about it because I would sound like a crazy stalker. Completely unethical experiments. That would be nuts but fascinating. Would sterilizing people too poor to afford kids solve most social issues and strains on the welfare system? What happens when you raise a bunch of babies together with no conversation with adults? Would they come up with their own language the way twins do? How would that language form, and how complicated would it be? Would they create a writing system as well? Would pro-lifers still be pro-life if they all have to join a mandatory organ and blood donation program? I mean, it's just a small procedure to save a life. If we raise a child in water the entire time, there's still shallow parts where they can rest/sleep, but they'll be wet all the time. What kind of changes would the body undergo if we raise a baby with an animal at the same time and treat them the same? Would the child learn to communicate with the animal? I know they tried this with a human baby and a chimp once, but they had to stop it because the baby started imitating the chimp. But what if the experiment continued? Will the kid grow up To be the chimp whisperer. How I miss the feeling of meeting someone new. Don't get me wrong, I freaking love my wife, but I often miss how it feels to fall for someone. Those first date jitters and crap. What it would like, being a man in this world. It not that I want to be a man, or feel like I'm not a woman. My father left us, so I sometimes think about how I could be an amazing father. It's really not that hard. Just be there. What I'm going to be when I grow up. I'm 31. How utterly shocked, scared and just plain confused a person from medieval times would be if they somehow just transplanted into present day. How alien it would be for them. Like cars. Big chunks of metal going faster than they've ever seen before. Piloted by men and women. Women being their own person and wearing trousers. It's something I tend to think about on long drives and short drives. Where are all the baby pigeons? I'm obnoxiously observant. I notice every frizz in someone's hair, every flaw in their teeth, every hole and stain in someone's clothes. But I can't ever mention it. Sometimes it gets a little overwhelming, especially with myself, as I'm extremely preoccupied with my appearance and can't leave the house with so much as a line in my MacCube. But I'm getting better. That I can never truly know anyone, only my perception of them. There is literally no shared vocabulary where I can truly understand how another person feels, just the image that our shared approximation of language can convey. Is it even close? How do I know that chocolate tastes the same to me as it does to my wife, or a kiss? What I'll be cooking. Usually never talk about it, because I cook it. Or I call Muhammad up the road and ask him for the usual. It's mostly Muhammad. Man's done me solid for 2 years straight. I'm concerned about a friend who's clinically depressed and is sinking into a state of abject despair. He doesn't wish to talk about it with anyone and refuses professional help. Each day he drifts further away. What it would have been like if I hadn't repressed my feelings for almost 20 years and got to grow up as a girl. Sometimes it's a source of comfort, thinking about things being better. Sometimes it's a source of pain, thinking about all the things I missed. The extent to which I think about my ex. Goddamn society is fricked. Like, all this crap really is just coasting on shoestrings and bubble gum. If even a handful of the right individuals got hit by a bus or just decided not to show up to work, sections of our infrastructure would simply shut down. So much crap is broken, and we just accept it. We have grown to accept government's glacial pace in a world where we have portable video phones. I can attend a concert in virtual reality, but the people in charge of regulating such technologies don't even understand terms such as broadband, and internet regulation is a softball topic. Let's not even get into foreign policy or gun ownership. Yet, it's almost like we can't act, like there's no strong, rational voices pointing us at these issues and possible solutions. Our news media has dissolved into reality entertainment, with all the narratives and writers that go along with it. The corporate megaphone is not ours, and public megaphones of social media are ineffective at best. What's to become of this crap show? What does the future hold? We the people. We the workers. We should have all of the power, but we've resigned ourselves to mediocrity and the dramatization of daily politics. We've silently given our approval to endless wars and social strife. So long as we have our entertainment and religion, there is no hope in waiting for someone else to take care of things for you. There is no hope. Thanks to global warming, the waters are literally rising, and we are paralyzed to do anything about it. This red vs blue two-party conflict is the worst. We ascribe problems like obesity and gun violence to difficult to control storms, as if a natural byproduct of society. But what is an epidemic that goes on for years, except a resounding failure of leadership? This is public suffering. These are rising death tolls. How much blood is on the hands of lawmakers when preventable deaths keep happening? Every last senator and governor, every last head secretary and cabinet chief, every goddamn role of leadership in government must adopt shorter term limits. Our government has been infiltrated by corporate agents and are left to infect our policies and agencies over decades. Banks have tighter regulations on how tellers handle money than the US has, with politicians staying in office. What the actual frick? Let me break down the gun problem. We, in the US, Do not trust the police. They're understaffed, overworked, and prone to corruption for both reasons. We, in the US, do not trust the court systems. There's clear problems with sentencing bias along racial, gender, and affluence lines, in addition to the tremendous amount of time it takes to get anything through courts. We, in the US, do not trust our jail systems. They're ineffective at rehabilitation, and are known for inmate violence. If you cannot trust the justice system of your country, your life is in your own hands. For many people, that means owning a weapon. Ultimately, the people have lost faith in their government to manage the justice system. If voter participation is any indicator, many people seem to have given up participating in elections altogether, which further compounds the problem of having an effective leadership maintain office. What we have is critically low confidence from the average citizen in the government, and that results in a need for some to take matters into their own hands. We must fix the root of the problem to solve the symptoms, but no one is talking about it. It's almost like corporations and government profiteers benefit from the status quo, and that's the worst part. It's like this by design, not some grand Illuminati conspiracy, but the alignment of numerous private parties all trying to leech the very last cent out of every consumer they can. Private security firms benefit from weak police. Private healthcare benefits from a lack of public healthcare. Private schools benefit from weak public schools. Even the makers of goddamn tax prep software lobby against making the tax code easier for the public to deal with. Everyone's looking out for themselves, instead of working together for a better country. The US today isn't about freedom or liberty. It's about greed. Maybe it always has been. The past. Reality. Sadness. That if I got stuck back in time in like 1300s England, how could I keep myself from being called a witch and burned at the stake? I'd seem suspicious for a number of reasons. So what lies/cover stories do I need to have ready to go? What would be believable? This is assuming there are surmountable language barriers and I don't die within the first week from the hundreds of diseases nearby foreign to my immune system. I'm able to read and write, but not in Latin, and have a good understanding of math. But I'd be too physically fit to be as wealthy as my education suggests. And yet I don't look like I work in the fields all day. My teeth are straight. I don't really have skin problems. And I'm tall for a woman back then. And I would really want to tell people to wash their hands more often and stop burying the dead upstream. But how can you convince people without talking about tiny, invisible germs? I find myself working through these scenarios probably about once a week. Did I say sorry? Was that too rude? Was I not polite enough? I didn't hold the door open for that one person, and I'm so ashamed of myself. I hope they think I'm just oblivious. Would it be rude to talk at this moment? I didn't thank that person. I didn't thank them, and now they must think I'm a terrible person. Was 3 thank yous too much? Should I have only said it twice? Was it weird when I said it the 3rd time? Why did I say that? I didn't mean it like that. But that's what came out. I don't know them very well, but I kinda know them. Is it socially acceptable for me to talk to them? Do I look okay? Am I presentable? How do I properly apologize? How formal should it be? How we're on this planet and alive at this moment. If all birds had hands, which would be the jazziest? Logic would say something like a peacock or macaw, but I think geese would have pretty crazy jazz hints as well. Freaking the neighbor lady. So many deep thoughts. I'm significantly less deep, and mostly think about how werewolves would transform in real life. It's gotta hurt. And do they change back to human form completely? Would there be signs of a transformation afterwards? Akin to how a woman's pelvic structure will be different after birth? Or would only women be able to become werewolves?